views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station. The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Hi there! Ako po si 𝗕𝗶𝗿 Panelo, nag-aanyaya sa inyo sa aking programa ng pamagat ay 𝗕𝗶𝗿. Kung gusto niyo pong manood, makinig sa isang malalim, masusi na pagtatalakay sa mga nagbabagang isyu ng bansa, samahan niyo po ako sa DZRJ 810 AM, Radyo Bandido TV.
Watch and listen to 𝗕𝗶𝗿, Monday to Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandido.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Hi there! Ako po si 𝗕𝗶𝗿 Panelo, nag-aanyaya sa inyo sa aking programa ng pamagat ay 𝗕𝗶𝗿. Kung gusto niyo pong manood, makinig sa isang malalim, masusi na pagtatalakay sa mga nagbabagang isyu ng bansa, samahan niyo po ako sa DZRJ 810 AM, Radyo Bandido TV.
Watch and listen to 𝗕𝗶𝗿, Monday to Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandido.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Maganda, maluwalhati at mapagpalang araw sa inyong lahat. Ako po ang inyong lingkod, 𝗕𝗶𝗿 Panelo. Ngayong araw ng Miyerkules, ika-20 ng buwan ng Disyembre, nagbibigay-bugay sa inyo dito sa programang 𝗕𝗶𝗿. Now, ngayon ng araw na ito, pag siniswerte tayo, pakapanihin po natin ang dating Presidente Rodrigo Duterte ugnay sa mga pangyayari tungkol sa kanyang programa, tungkol sa kanyang mga damdamin kaugnay sa what is perceived to be an assault against him, against certain network, against Daysara. Wala. Wala.
Sir,
Yeah, ano nangyari?
okay na po.
Ready na siya?
Opo.
Okay.
Bakit pag-busy ito?
Kasi gamit niya eh.
Technician, Si dating Presidente
Gamit ka,
Duterte,
sir. Gamit ka, sir.
sinayos pa. Sandali. Nag, nag-opening na ako, bigla nawala yung signal eh.
This is G. Santos of Mystical Buffet, an interactive program. Join me and my co-anchor Marge as we learn together how to lead a mystical and magical life through alternative ways on DZRJ 810 AM, Radyo Bandido TV.
Watch and listen to Mystical Buffet every Saturday from 9:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandido.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Okay. Kasama po natin ang dating Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Maririnig po natin ang kanyang tinig ngayon. Magandang hapon po sa inyo, dating Presidente Rodrigo Duterte.
Magandang hapon naman, Sal, sa iyo at sa mga kababayan natin.
Marami yung mga pangyayari dito sa ating bansa ngayon. Kung saan ay nauugnay yung pangalan, nauugnay si Inday Sara, nauugnay ang mga kaibigan nyo, kagaya ni Pastor Apollo 𝗕𝗶𝗿, pati ang kanyang network. At yan ay lahat umiikot sa inyo eh. Parang kayo ang pinanggagalingan ng mga nagsasabwatan ngayon, kung ano mga sabwatan ang iniisip nila. And the latest na paksaing kaugnay sa inyo, maliban pa doon sa ICC, maliban pa doon sa iniimbitahan kayo sa Kongreso, kaugnay doon sa inyong programa, ang pinaka-latest nag-issue na ng suspension order ang MTCRB at sinususpende ang programa ninyo gikan sa masa. At ang isa pang programa ng SMNI na ang pamagat ay Laban Kasama ang Bayan. At para mabigyan natin ng background, noong November 29, may nag-file ng complaint sa MTCRB. Pagkatapos, ang MTCRB naman, nagbigay ng notice sa SMNI kasi ang dinidemanda ang SMNI dahil daw sa mga maling mga impormasyon, mga balita na ikinakalat. Ngayon, nag-respond naman ang SMNI. So, mag-respond ang SMNI, eto ngayon ang order ng SMNI. Pagkatapos nilang matanggap ang response, ginawa po nila, sangayon sa kanila, and I will quote what the suspension order says. Ang sabi po doon, on the basis of the complaints as well as the submission, the position paper, the board, unanimous ang board, the board believes that there are certain aspects of the program, meaning yung program ninyo, that may be in violation. Ganun ang exact wording, that may be in violation of certain aspects of your program, may be in violation of PD 1896. 1890, Presidential Decree on 1986, 1986, at sa mga rules, implementing rules and regulations. Ngayon, ibig kong sabihin, yung inyong programa at saka yung programang isa pa, sinuspindi ng 14 na araw. Effective immediately. O ngayon, kaya po namin kayo tinawagan, ibig naming marinig at marinig naman ng bayan, bansa, sa pamamagitan ng RJTV, ng Radyo Bandidong Programa, dito sa Kontrabirada. Ang inyong reaksyon dito sa ginawang pagsuspindi sa inyong programa. Ano po masasabi ninyo dyan? Ginoong Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Well, masasabi ko is one, that would be a gross violation of my constitutional right to free expression. And second, of course, is the outfit which I am using as a platform, violation of press freedom. Magdadalawa yan. Kasi using a medium there, which is a SMNI. So, yun ang akin, those constitutional rights are sacred. Talagang mabigat yan sa ating konstitusyon. It has a value higher than or almost kasing ano yan, a currency of it has a value of a currency of money, in the sense that it is being used by people to communicate and to inform the public, and to the right of the individual to freely express his or her opinion. Ano yan eh? It has a currency value para sa for those who love freedom.
Anong masasabi niyo doon sa sinabi ng MTCRB board na para sa kanilang pananaw, paniniwala, may mga ilang aspeto raw ng programa nyo na maaaring lumabag sa batas, at dahil dito kailangang suspindi ng 14 na araw. Because of that, your program is being suspended.
Well, I haven't really read in its entirety the document kasi mahina ang mata ko. You sent me a copy dito lang sa iPhone. Pero ito ang masasabi ko, Sal. There are no specifics. You are not informed of what violations you have committed. There is no provision of law that you have transgressed. At this time, you cannot contest yung preventive suspension. Preventive in the sense that in the meantime, you are not allowed to use the facility of the SMNI. Alam mo, in my view, the suppression to express your right to exercise this freedom does not it cannot be the subject of a preliminary or a permanent status. Hindi nga pwede yan eh. The right to free expression is absolute. To me, that is how I understand it until today sa constitutional law ko. A temporary preventive suspension is by itself already a censorship. Hindi ka nakakasalita. You're censored. So, to me, to that extent, or to the full time that you are not allowed to talk, it is a derogation of your right, of your constitutional right to free speech and free expression. And to add, freedom of the press.
As a lawyer yourself, Mr. President, do you think there is a basis for the suspension, given the fact that the reasoning, as I mentioned earlier, and for your information, I would like to read the particular paragraphs in regard to the suspension. It says, and I quote, upon careful review and consideration of recent events and complaints received by the board, it has come to the board's attention that certain aspects of the program may be in violation of established guidelines and standards set by Presidential Decree number 1986 and its implementing rules and regulations governing broadcasting content. To prevent the possible repetition of these alleged infractions, which may pose negative impact on public welfare, ethical considerations, and the overall reputation of the broadcasting industry, this board determines the need to preventively suspend the subject program, meaning your program, by virtue of Section 3, Chapter 13 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations, where it says that any time during the pendency of the case and in order to prevent or stop further violations of the case and in order to prevent or stop further violations or for the interest of the welfare of the public, the chairman of the board may issue a preventive suspension ordering and mandating the suspension of the said program, television, network, cable, TV station, and other related establishments, provided that the temporary preventive order thus issued shall have a life of not more than 20 days from the date of the issuance. Yan po ang sinasaad ng preventive suspension.
Well, it is all the charges are maybe. That is not good enough. You know, if you try to fish out from my mouth what I said until now, and if you cannot pinpoint the exact provision of the law which I violated, then that is already, I said, a violation of my constitutional right. Wala kang findings of guilt which you may have or probably uttered. But it must be spread out at that moment, at this time, that those the things that I uttered are punishable by law. It cannot be maybe because of uh, uh, it speaks of a thing which has to be solved first before you can get the meat, the substance, the gravamen of my speech or expression. And then at the time, I am already at a loss of how to go about exercising that right.
So, Mr. President, what do you intend to do about this preventive suspension?
Well, one is maybe we can raise it to the courts. Uh, the window is very small. It's 20 days. Maybe by the time that you are ready to hear or argue the case before the courts, maubos na yan, it would be rendered moot and academic. Pero let us see what happens. I will try to consult my classmates. Those who are still practicing. Ako hindi na, nag-retire na ako. But I intend to go back to law practice. But I have to go to school. So that's the problem now.
But definitely, as far as you're concerned, the suspension of the program, 𝗕𝗶𝗿, is violative of the constitutional right to freedom of speech as well as the freedom of the press.
Yes. Freedom of expression and freedom of the press, because 𝗕𝗶𝗿's radio station is prohibited from airing my program. It is not directed to me. It is directed to SMNI. Kaya nga, kaya mabuti sana niyan. What they should do, if they want really to get a violation coming from my mouth, is allow me to talk, and after that, investigate and find out if there is something violative of the law sa bunganga ko. Not before. Because
But-
dito, in the realm of the prevention, we are dealing with speculation, maybe allegedly. Maybe. That is not good enough to curtail one's freedom of expression. Those words, maybe, allegedly. Hindi pwede yan. You have to be specific. Either you allow the person to talk and talk and talk and find out the violations. And of course, it would require you to hear carefully what the other guy is talking about. That is the time that you try to investigate and find out the faults if there are any. Ganon yan. Napakaintindi ko sa constitutional law ko sa law school.
Now, my next question, Mr. President, is why do you think a particular agency of the government is suppressing this right given by the Constitution to the press? Ano ho sa tingin niyo? Bakit nila?
The ground was that I used some threatening words, something like against the communists, that I wanted to kill them all, which is really true. I do not deny it. And if you are a communist, unless you deny that you are not a communist, may kasalanan ako. Pero you have to be true to your prinsipyo mo. Pag sinabi ko sa iyo na komunista ka, talaga ka naman komunista. At alam naman ng lahat komunista ka. And everybody is you. That's why the military is on the verge of, because of that issue. Alam mo, Sal, there's a greater crucifix waiting for the Filipinos way ahead. Hindi ko lang masabi dito because I do not want to, maybe start something which might not be good for everybody. Yan nga ang nag-uumpisahan dyan. Itong komunista, so we have to be frank with each other, frank with the military, frank with the other branches of government. Ano ba to? Bulahan to o totohanan to? Are we infiltrated or are we not? Ganon yan eh. Government must be frank enough to admit that we are infiltrated. And the military, in not so many ways, have already stated na infiltrated. At yung mga political nila na mga political party list are really communist front. And until and unless they deny that they are not communist, then maybe I will have a problem. But having been a president in the distant past, alam ng military, alam ng lahat, kami dito sa gobyerno noon, the police, in every command conference, in every review sa mga paper, nandyan yung mga pangalan nila, komunista talaga sila in our records. Kaya lang, they were able to clothe themselves with a parang immunity, or at least appearing to be one legit. But they are really, alam nila komunista sila. Nasa record yan ng gobyerno lahat sa military. Kaya pag nagkaputukan dyan, and we suffered tayo are a matter of fact merely defending our country at expressing our disgust. Gusto ko naman talaga patayin yan. Ilang ilang sundalo kaya ang namatay sa panahon ko. And each and every one of them nakaburo sa mga probinsya ay go to the bereaved family. Diyan ako nabugbog sa even at night. Maglanding ako sa isang airfield tapos mag-travel ako many kilometers just to visit the bereaved family. Bakit hindi ako masaktan? Yung peace talks was terminated by me during my time. If you remember, the military, I am very sure they were listening to our talk, to my talk with Sison when he was alive. May he rest in peace. We started with the usual greetings. Musta ka? Musta pamilya mo? And then when we got to review the papers that they submitted after they were invited to Malacanang, nag-iiba na iba yung interpretation nila. Sabi ko, why are you putting a new definition of these words? I'm pretty sure that the dictionary in Norway is fundamentally the same with all dictionaries used in schools everywhere. Kapagkatapos, we ended up, nagmurahan kami, pinutang ina ko siya. Sumagot rin siya ng putang ina mo. Sabi ko, putang ina ka. Sabi ko, wag kang umuwi sa Pilipinas, papatayin kita. That was the saga of the peace talks during my time. So it was terminated. Sabi ko, no peace talks anymore, ever. So apparently that exasperation, caveat, was only good for my term because a new president can initiate another. Pero wala na. There's no sense in talking to this guy. Wala, gusto lang talaga nila is to gather momentum and they can achieve the dreams like amount in parity with Mao's achievements. They are itching to take over. Alam mo ang mangyari sa atin? Nangyari sa Cambodia, sa Pol Pot. They will kill all doctors, nurses, padala doon sa bukid patanimin. But that is why Pol Pot killed millions of his fellow men. Isang ulol yun, komunista, kagaya nila. Kaya hindi, you can, maybe by this time you can read my mind ng galit ko sa ano. Talagang totoo yun. Talaga kayo mga...
So do you believe, Mr. President, that by these peace talks, we are giving the communist, terrorist, a space to not only resurrect themselves, but to strengthen their ranks.
It's obvious we had peace talks from over time of Corre to Ramos and every president, Arroyo. Pagka hindi ka naman bobo, hindi mo maintindihan yan. That's why minsan you can get killed by your own stupidity. If you adopt that kind of attitude, allow this ideology that knows no bounds, want to take over by force, ay magpatayan tayo dyan. And that is why I said, may cross tayong, there's a cross to bear in the future. Sasabihin ko. But it is not really that the gravity is not that it does not amount to any extreme suffering. What it will bring us to a spasm. Because I think that the nation now, let me repeat it to the Filipinos, the nation or the government, rather, be precise, the government at present hangs in a balance. Whichever the scales I cannot speculate. But really, if you ask me, this government is beyond moral regeneration. Hindi na makontrol yung corruption. There is nobody telling everyone to stop. There is nobody willing to shoot the idiots who are continuing the plunder. Pag ayaw mong pumatay, kasi takot ka dyan sa putang inang ICC, walang mangyari sa gobyerno mo. That is the reality of it all. Ito mga struggling democracies. We have not attained the refinement of a democratic life. The fact now that the military can demand the release of persons cited in contempt of court in any purely civilian activity. Nakita mo na. Here is now dalawang tao. Mrs. Badoy and Mr. Rex. Bakit sila na-release? Because of the letter of the mayor. And rightly so. Kasi pag hindi lalaroan yung dalawa and make a mockery of our democracy. Tama lang yun. You did it right. Hindi pa ako nagsalita. Pero one of these days, kilalaman ninyo ako, I serve under you. Alam ninyo paano ako nagtrabaho, paano ko kayo minahal, paano ko kayo, ano. Huwag na lang tayo magkwenta-kwenta sa... Pero alam niyo ang puso ko para sa inyo. Not because I was expecting at the time when I did it that something like this would happen, that you will ayaw ninyo makialam din. We will fight. We'll carry the fight. And it's natural. Whatever happens, it can happen, and it will be done.
If you were to decide, Mr. President, what do you think is the correct political posturing by this administration currently to neutralize whatever?
I cannot talk about the administration, Sal. I do not know anything of its workings. I am entirely out of the structural and who's exercising what power. Hindi natin alam ang discretional. As a final word, I will just say, I leave it to the military to decide.
Now going back,
Wala na.
yeah,
There can be no room for correction or moral regeneration. Too late for that. Too late in the day. It has long been incoming. Long time ago. Even during my time. Kaya ganon ang taga-gobyerno. Itong may mga taga-gobyerno, itong klase nila, itong mga Marcos, itong si Speaker Romualdez, they think that if they are in the helms of government, they are God. My God. May God have mercy on the soul of the Filipino. Salamat, Sal.
well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure the people have listened to you and would evaluate everything you said and decide for themselves what they will do for themselves. Thank you very much for this opportunity given to this network to hear your thoughts about these issues that we have raised. Thank you, former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Salamat po.
Salamat. Narinig po natin ang dating Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Mabibigat ang kanyang mga binitawan. At marahil ang ating mga nanunungkulan ay namnaming mabuti mga sinabi ng President. Mabigat yung kanyang sinabi tungkol sa paglabag sa karapatang pagpapahayag. Sa kanyang pananaw, hindi po siya ang tinatarget dito sa suspension order. Kung hindi mismo yung network. At pag yung network na ang sinasalakay mo, sinisira mo ang karapatan ito. Ibig sabihin, yung mismong sandata, instrumento na ginagamit ng saligang batas upang ipatupad mo ang iyong karapatan ay pinapatay niya. At napakapanganib po yan sapagkat kung magagawa nila ito sa isang network ng SMNI, ibig sabihin magagawa rin yan sa lahat ng ibang networks. At pag yan ay nagawa na nila, ay talagang pinatay mo na ang freedom of the press. Yan ang pinakamapanganib sa lahat. At ang isang demokrasya na walang malayang nagpapaya, gaya nga ng sinabi ng dating Pangulong Duterte, pag wala nang nagbibigay ng mga damdaming kaugnay sa mga kamalian, kaugnay sa katiwalian, kaugnay sa mga pag-aabuso, kaugnay sa nanakaw sa pera ng bayan, talagang ibig sabihin, yung pundasyon ng isang demokrating lipunan ay dahan-dahang nasisira, nawawasak. At dyan magsisimula ang pagsira ng demokratikong lipunan na itinayo sa dugo ng ating mga ninuno na lumaban upang magkaroon tayo ng isang malayang bansa. Kaya, yung pong mga nasa kapangyarihan, paulit-ulit kong sinasabi sa ating program, na yung pong mga Diyos ng tadhana, sila ang nagtitikta kung ano ang mangyayari sa sangkatauhan. Sila rin ang nagdidikta kung anong mangyayari sa mga bansa. At sila rin ang nagdidikta kung anong mangyayari sa mga tao. Partikular na yung mga taong nagpapatupad at namamahala.
Hindi ko anak kong dugo.
At sabi nga po, may kasabihan tayo at palaging pinauulit-ulit natin, yung mga nalalasing sa kapangyarihan, ako mag-ingat kayo sapagkat talagang yan binibigay sa inyo ng mga Diyos bago kayo ibaon sa lupa. Diba? Naririnig natin palagi yung kasabihan sa Ingles, for whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make flat. Kaya yung mga makikita nating nang-aabuso, yung walang patumanggang pagsira, pagyurak sa mga karapatan, walang patumanggang pagnakaw ng pera ng bayan, na animo sila'y mga hari at mga reyna na hawak nila sa kanilang mga palad ang kinabukasan ng sambayanan. Nako, maniwala kayo. Itong mga taong ito, talagang sinasadya ng mga Diyos ng tadhana na sila ay malasing. Magkaroon sila ng tinatawag na illusions of grandeur bago ibagsak ang kanilang mga pagbabalat kayo, ang kanilang pagkukunwari, ang kanilang pagsira, pagyura, pagpatay sa mga karapatan, hindi lamang ng pangtao, karapatan ng mga bansa. Kaya, sabi ko nga po ngayong Pasko, ito ang panahon ng pagmumuni-muni. Ito ang panahon ng pagsusuri. Ito ang panahon ng pag-aaral. Kailangan baybayin po natin ang kasaysayan ng ating lahi para malaman natin kung saan tayo papunta. Bakit sa pamamagitan lamang ng pagtahak sa daan ng undas ng nakaraan, ikaw ay magkakaroon ng visualization o pangitain kung saan papunta ang iyong kinabukasan. Kaya kung yung pong mga pangkasalukuyan nating opisyalis ng pamahalaan, kung sa akala nila, wala nang katapusan ang kanilang kaligayahan, ang kanilang nanakaw ng pera ng bayan. Walang katapusan ang kanilang pag-uubuso sa kanilang kapangyarihan. Walang katapusan ang kanilang pagbabalat kayo. Maniwala kayo. Nagkakamali sila, nagkakamali po kayo. Sapagkat sigurado darating yung panahon na kayo'y magugulat na lamang. Lahat ng inyong hawak ay maglalaho na. Ako po ang inyong likod, Panelo, pasamantalang na nagpapaalam. Hanggang bukas na muli. At nagsasabi sa inyong lahat, mabuhay ang Pilipino at magmahalan tayo.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the